Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a big winter storm for portions of the Midwestern United States. We're going to be going over how much snowfall you should be expecting, as well as where that snowfall will be setting up, and we're also going to look at when and how that system will set up. We're also going to be going over my official snowfall forecast. We'll look at some of the model guidance for this storm, and we'll look at much more in today's video, so make sure you stay tuned all the way until the end. So here's a good demonstration. This is actually the thumbnail of the video, but I think this is a very good demonstration of what's happening in the atmosphere with the system. We're going to see that low pressure system that you see over Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan on this map kind of go up from Kansas and Missouri, that area, and kind of push northward into portions of Wisconsin and Michigan. And it's going to also be heading eastward at the same time. So it's going to be making a northeastward push. We're going to see severe weather out ahead of that in portions of Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, and maybe pushing into Indiana and Michigan with warm air ahead of it. And then behind there is where you're going to get some of that snowfall. You see blizzard potential for portions of Montana and North Dakota. That's with a different system, but still quite a lot going on in this map. And then behind there, you're going to see some cold air. So this is definitely a very dynamic pattern and something that's going to be very, very interesting to see how it plays out. So here's the current National Weather Service page and what it's showing. We see some tropical storm warnings. Actually, I think those are flash flood warnings in effect for southern Florida there. We also see some wind advisories for parts of New Mexico with some winter weather advisories in effect for the Four Corners as well as Washington and Idaho. We also see some winter storm warnings in the pink for portions of Colorado, New Mexico, and parts of Montana, with blizzard warnings also for parts of Montana. Freeze warnings in effect for portions of California there, as well as some freeze watches, if I'm not mistaken, for portions of, or actually I think those are hard freeze watches in effect for portions of Southern California, with some frost advisories further south of there in that lighter shade of blue. So here would be the European model and what it's showing for this event. Now, we're going to take this through 6-hour increments and we'll play this out. Then we'll look at the NAM 3CAM model, and then we'll look at my snowfall forecast. So here would be by tonight right around 6 p.m. And we're going to be using Central Time for this video because, of course, that's the area that this is affecting, portions of the Midwest. So we're going to be seeing some rain and snow really scattered about. As you get further east, you're going to be more in that rain zone. As you get further west, mainly closer to Colorado, Nebraska, Wyoming, you're going to be more in that snowfall area. Now, as we start to set up for Tuesdays, this will be right around midnight. We're looking at a lot of precipitation, especially in the form of rainfall out ahead of the system. We see some rain-snow mix for portions of Minnesota there. And then further west and to the south, we're seeing some of that snowfall for some of those areas. Now, as we get to 6 a.m., we're looking at some of that snowfall now moving through parts of eastern Colorado and Nebraska in that general area. As we get to Tuesday, right around noon time, we're looking at portions of Minnesota, South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska getting into some of the snowfall. The NAM 3CAM model is further east. This model, the European model, is further west, and the National Weather Service is kind of in the middle of both of those two model runs. Now, here to be by Tuesday, right around 6 p.m. Central Time, and we're looking at heavy snowfall for portions of Minnesota there. We're seeing that low pressure system up further to the north. We see that draping cold front further to the south. We also see a warm front, which is a little bit further to the north, kind of like this. So we have that warm air ahead of there, and you're also going to be dealing with some potential severe weather for some of these regions over portions of Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, with a band of rain that should head eastward into portions of the Great Lakes. So here to be by Wednesday, right around midnight, and we're dealing with a lot of snowfall for northern Wisconsin, much of eastern Minnesota, as well as parts of the UP of Michigan, especially as you get further west, and then it starts to get all out of here as we're starting to get to right around 6 in the morning on Wednesday. So here to be what the NAM 3CAM model is showing. This is I believe the American high resolution model, and we're looking at, or the North American high resolution model, and we're looking at some thunderstorms ahead of the system for portions of, or just some scattered showers, I would say, for portions of the Midwest. Your system is still out here over parts of the plains, and that'll and parts of the Rockies, and that'll be moving out for further to the north and to the east. So let's see how this plays out on the NAM 3 cam model. We start to see the system move a little bit further east. So for portions of Nebraska and Colorado, you guys are starting to get into these into the snowfall bands. We're seeing the rainfall out ahead of there, maybe some isolated ice precipitation through there. And then as we start to get to Tuesday, right around 6 in the morning, so tomorrow, right around 6 in the morning, we're looking at some of that snowfall for Nebraska and Kansas. And then as we continue forward, heavy precipitation moving through parts of Nebraska, Iowa, and really Iowa's going to see a big mixture of all of these different types of precipitation. Further east, you'll be in those thunderstorms. Further to the central part of the state, you might get even into some of that ice precipitation. And then as you head further west, you're going to start to get into the sleet and the snow. So you really will be seeing quite a lot of different types of precipitation with this very dynamic system. And mainly that's because we're seeing that warm air come out of the south, and that's mixing up with this cold air, which is coming up from the down from the north. So you're going to see that kind of mixing right over this area, and that could cause some dangerous and very slick roadways where you're going to be seeing maybe rain going to ice, going back to rain, going to snow, and then back to ice. So we could see a whole combination of very dangerous precipitation. Now here would be by Wednesday, or actually Tuesday, right around 6 p.m. We're looking at most of that snowfall for portions of Minnesota and Iowa, with a line of thunderstorms moving through Illinois and Wisconsin. And we're looking at, by this time, this would be right around Wednesday around midnight for Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. It's pretty much the heaviest of the snowfall, and most of that precipitation and all of that storm is pretty much said and done with as we got to Wednesday right around 6 a.m. So here would be the snowfall totals from the 3-cam model, the model that we just looked at. Anywhere in the grays, you're looking at basically any snowfall to 2 inches of snowfall, 2 to 6 inches in the blues, and then 6 to about 8 to 9 inches as you get into the purples, and as you get into the pinks, that's where you're getting probably closer to 10 to 15 or more inches of snowfall. So mainly these areas are getting up to 6 inches, and some areas are just at 6 inches or maybe closer to 7 or 8 inches of snowfall. But generally, the snowfall totals will be on the lower side of things, or I would say this is going to be a medium-sized snowstorm. I don't think it's going to be a huge snowstorm, just because most of these snowfall totals will be right around 4 or 5 inches. So it's nothing that's going to be too crazy, but it will make for some slick roadways, and it's definitely something that we have to keep our eye on. Now, here would be what the European model is showing, and I'll go back and forth between these two. You can tell the extreme difference between these two, and you can tell that this is a 3K model, here's the European model, and you can tell the European model is much further to the west than what the 3K model is showing, and it's a little bit stronger than what the 3K model is showing. You see, as you get further to the south over Iowa and Nebraska, your totals are lowered, and I'll actually go back. Those totals are lowered, but then as you get further to the north, those totals actually increase. So it's definitely something that we have to keep our eye on. Here's what the National Weather Service is showing. So this is all the National Weather Service forecast offices, and they put it on one map. This is how much snowfall they're forecasting, and generally we're looking at maybe 2 to 6 inches. The National Weather Service doesn't like to bring out huge snowfall totals, so it's probably going to be closer to 6 inches in some locations. They just don't want to show that. The biggest thing that you want to take out from the National Weather Service's forecast is exactly the track. And you can see that track actually matches up a little bit closer to what the European model was showing with this event. So I'm going to go trust what the European and the National Weather Service are showing more than just one stray model. Now, here would be my forecast: mountain snow. And this is just generally an area that I use because I can't forecast for such an elevation dependent snowfall region such as the Rockies and portions of the mountainous west, just because of how great those elevation differences are. One area maybe 10 miles away is seeing closer to 6 to 12 inches, and another area 10 miles away is seeing closer to just under an inch, just because of that elevation difference. So I just can't represent that well enough on my map. I would recommend you go see your local National Weather Service office for the best forecast for those regions, just because it is so elevation dependent. And on their website, they actually have a very detailed snowfall forecast that you can zoom in and out of, and it gives you exact snowfall totals for each individual mountain top, each individual town and city. So it's very, very useful. And if you live in the Rockies, that will be a very useful tool for you. Now, Here's the under an inch area. So basically anything under an inch of snowfall should be expected all within this light blue region. And I'm including both of these systems. We have another system out further to the north in Montana, Idaho, North Dakota. And I'm just going to include this on this map because anyway, you guys will be seeing snowfall. So I'm going to include this on this map as well. And again, this is going from today all the way until the 11th. So under an inch of snowfall for all of these regions, which includes portions of the Central Rockies up through portions of the northern plains and then back through the Midwest and the northern and especially the western Great Lakes. That's where you're looking at under an inch in these regions. But if you are in this darker shade of blue, this medium blue, this is where you're looking at 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. And this includes portions of the Midwest and then through the Central Plains, as well as portions of the High Plains and parts of Montana and Idaho, as well as Utah and Colorado there. That's where you're looking at 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. So at least 1 inch of snowfall in these regions. But if you're in this darker blue, 3 to 6 inches of snowfall. And that includes portions of Montana, Utah, Colorado, even a little bit of Nebraska. And then a thin stripe through portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan, where I'm expecting closer to 3 to 6 inches of snowfall, probably closer to 4 to 5 inches in many of these areas, but a couple isolated areas I do think could get closer to 6 to 12 inches. 6 to 12 inches, I think some areas in Montana and Colorado could get closer to 12 inches, although that 6 to 12 inches doesn't paint a good picture for portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin. I think this is kind of one of those times where you need kind of a little bit of a further explanation for that 6 to 12 inch area. I think there's going to be a lot of areas within that are just at 6 inches or maybe closer to 7 or 8 inches. So I don't think any of these regions will really receive up to a foot of snowfall. That's just kind of the snowfall brackets that I use. So that's just something that you need to keep in mind. I think it'll be closer to 6 to 8 inches in many of those regions. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.